Hi, welcome to the Junk Project. I'm your host, Michelle Hill, and today we have the awesome opportunity to be talking. Is that proper English? To be? I don't know. We're going to be talking with Lori Jewett. Like it threw me off. My English sucks, so I don't know. Hi, Lori. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's so funny that you say that because I was actually talking to Philip Sessions yesterday and told him that I listened to your podcast episode. And I said, just fair warning, we're basically the same person. We like say wrong things and stop. And I'm like, I feel like we were separated at birth twins somehow. So he was excited because he enjoyed your podcast. So
Yeah, I am corrected a lot on how I speak. So I'm like, you know what? It's 2022. I don't care anymore. So I don't I'm 51. I'm going downhill. Huh?
I'm fighting with autocorrect and all on my book because I'm like saying things the way that I would say them, and the computer is like, that's not proper English. I'm like, but it's how I talk. I want to write how I talk. And
yeah,
computers don't like that.
I think I write a little bit better than how I talk. So I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't even know if that's correct. So, all right, share with us what you do and how you like to help people.
So my main thing, I guess, is my husband and I own an insurance agency. We do employee benefits. So we help employers, attract and retain better employees while helping their employees with affordable, life insurance and supplemental benefits. I recently started a podcast. You were actually part of the inspiration for that, as you know,
Aww.
but I think everybody needs to know. So
thank you.
Working with Sebastian on that. And I'm in the process of writing a book. And there's like a million other thoughts in my head that I want to do that I'm like, I'm not going to talk about all those because they're like half ideas right now. But my 15-year-old I will be starting a horse subscription box very soon. So that's exciting.
Cool. That is exciting. That is pretty neat. I like it. Maybe I should jump. Maybe I should do like a junk drawer box, and I just throw shit from a junk drawer in there. I don't know.
I feel like we've talked about this. I think I told you needed to do something like that. And like, you pay a higher subscription to get the good stuff.
Yeah.
Say,
instead of a dollar flashlight, you get the what is it, mag light. You get a better mag light flashlight.
Yeah. Well, I was and I think I was writing about it in my book the other day, and I was thinking about you. So I was in a play group when my daughter was younger, and they always did all these like different events and stuff. And one of them that they did was a box o crap exchange.
Interesting.
And you literally would take a shoebox and fill it with stuff from your house and mail it to somebody else. And it was so funny. I got like some Winnie the Pooh birthday party hats and a spatula, and it was just silly, and it all went straight to Goodwill, but it was a fun thing. So there might be actually something to that.
So like, how did you know who to send it to? Was it
there was an organizer that like swapped addresses and told you who to send your stuff to? And then we did it in person once, I think, too, where you kind of like a Christmas white elephant exchange.
Yeah. So, I should be writing this stuff down. Thank God we're recording it. So, I'll get my pen.
You never know. All these ideas and I'm like, that's so stupid. And then I looked at myself this morning when I was wrapped in my like sleep hug cocoon from head to toe, and I'm like, okay, if people buy this crap, because probably someone came up with that idea and they're like, oh, I need to make a sleeping bag made out of a sheet and nobody will buy it. Well, I guarantee you I bought one and they're amazing, by the way. But yeah, I'm the worst at not writing my ideas down. I'm like, man, there's so many great ideas that are just lost.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was listening to your podcast with you and Steve. And I don't remember the whole podcast, but I do remember the part where he's like, if you wake up in the middle of the night, roll over and write your idea down. And I recalled doing that soon after I listened to that podcast. And I'm like, oh, man, I remember having some kind of idea, but did I write it down? And I think I wrote it down, but it completely made like no sense because I was like half asleep. And I take medication to sleep. So, I take Ambien to sleep. So that in itself is fairly entertaining. And So I did write it down, but my verbiage, I'm still trying to break the code. So
I'm awful about that. I don't know if it was with Steve I talked about it with, or if it was you I talked about it with, but I took Ambien to sleep for a little while, and there are probably text message screenshots still rolling around out there because I could not take that medication because it was like drunk. It was crazy. The stuff that I said it made absolutely no sense. My
so
friends just loved it.
yeah, one time, and I was really glad that I included my grandson in this. I took Ambien, and I guess I'm like, hey, y'all need to get all these kids out of the house except Elijah. And I'm like, thank God I said except Elijah because obviously there's no kids. So they still wear me out about that. And then I'll try and do a intermittent fasting, right? So generally at 2 in the afternoon, I really try not to eat anymore. And I don't do this every day because sometimes it just doesn't work in my schedule. But I'll generally try and quit eating at 2 in the afternoon, and then I start back up at 6 in the morning. Well, lo and behold, my alter ego with Ambien comes out at some point and starts eating, and it pisses me off because I'm thinking I, did really good, and I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I am so proud of myself. I didn't do anything, and then I find out that I like ate the whole kitchen, and I'm like, why aren't you guys stopping me? And they're like, we try. I'm like, dadgummit, I'm just, if I take something else, it makes me a little groggy. So I do like the Ambien, but it is my alter ego. I'm telling you, we're gonna have it out at some point, and that's why I posted that one day. I'm like, it pisses me off. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Because I wake up and it's like all new. You know, I don't have drama in my life until I take Ambien and wake up, and I'm like, what the hell did I buy? What's going on here?
Yeah, I do that
So
without the Ambien. I don't even need the Ambien for the midnight eating and shopping. So it's funny you
yeah.
say that I feel like we really are the same person because I wake up and for the first time I posted about it on Facebook was like 12 years ago. And I wake up in the middle of the night and I eat a lot every night. It's not like, which I hope that none of the doctors from Apex are listening to
I
this
know,
because
right?
they've all told me I need to get my blood checked again. But I already did it.
Mm-mm.
I already did all the hormone testing. But I wake up genuinely hungry at 3 o'clock every morning without fail,
Wow.
not like snacky. I mean, genuinely, my stomach is growling hungry. And I eat. I don't know how I'm not like 2,000 pounds because it is not normally healthy stuff that I crave in the middle of the night. But it's just funny you say that because everything you say, I'm like, oh yeah, we're the same person.
Yeah. Oh man, I eat too. I do not eat healthy, but I eat. And I keep telling myself, well, right now it's fine because I'm very active, but my concern is what's going to happen when I'm not active. So I really want to take the opportunity at some point pretty quick and work on, changing my eating habits. And Miranda Jiggins was really cool one time because she's like, you don't try and come in and change your whole meal. Just, eat all bad meals. And then you have that one meal that you eat healthy. And that's it. And you start with
Are you part
that.
of her breakfast challenge right now that she has going on?
Huh?
Are you part of her breakfast challenge she has going on right now? Where it's just
No,
change your breakfast?
I'm pretty, my breakfast is my favorite meal. And I've been eating the same thing for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. So I'm really struggling to let go of that right now. I'll eat other stuff, but I prefer to eat that particular, what it is. So it's really funny. And I don't generally cook. I don't like to cook. So I got to figure something out. I gotta have to either start cooking, buy frozen food. I don't know, but I gotta figure something out.
We all have those things that we need to improve on. And that's mine is one of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my mom is like so freaking disciplined. I'm like, how come I didn't get into that? I mean, I got none. But that's because honestly, I was never disciplined. Um, I was so sweet, uh, tongue in cheek, that I never got spanked, never got grounded. And this is why I struggle with no discipline. I mean, I had none. none. So she said when I was younger, I would give her the puppy dog eyes and, do this, and she couldn't spank me. And I'm like, yes. So never been spanked either. This explains a lot, I'm pretty sure. So it's 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 really hard to get on a schedule and be a scheduled person when I've never had a schedule in my life, other than school. And, that was like forever ago. So that didn't last either.
Yeah, I'm working on my scheduling, and I literally sat down, and it's so funny the things you say because they trigger memories for me. But I sat down a couple days ago and wrote a chapter, day for yesterday, I guess. Anyway, and wrote a chapter for the book. And it was a lot of like childhood memories, and not childhood really, but like my teen year memories and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that's why I turned out the way that I did, because I've never been one to sleep at night. I stay up, wake
Yeah.
up all through the night. I have zero time management skills. I'm working on it. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I have lots of coaches to help me with that, and they all probably just want to cry having to deal with me. They're like, oh, you get your money back. I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult when you're just not taught that. And I'm not blaming that on my parents. It's just difficult, so and I can tell you right now, I did not teach that to my kid either. So, but the big thing is, I don't care. You show up on working time, we're good. Everything else, I wing it and I figure it out as I go along. But I would like to work on my time management, just because I'm on a weird schedule, and I think my time, some of it is wasted, and I really don't want to waste it. So for that reason, I want to work on my time management skills.
Yeah, that's something that I really am working on, because in my situation, I do so many different things. My primary thing, it seems like it's one thing, right? One career, but there's a lot that goes into it. I have virtual things. I have in-person meetings all across the state with employees, with employers, with, HR departments, whoever it
Wow.
is. So in person, virtual, um, all over the place. And that's really hard for me to schedule. Like, I think the first time I scheduled to be on here, I had to reschedule because I had double booked myself an in-person and a virtual. And I'm working on it. And I've got like my paper calendar and my computer, my like phone Apple calendar and all that. And, one of the cool things about, one of the choices I've made over the last 15 months is just surround myself with people that are better at things that I'm not. So I'm learning a lot from a lot of people about, different ways to manage time. Actually, I just downloaded an app this morning. Somebody, I think, posted in Apex or somewhere about a new task management app. And we have one. My husband, Dean, he loves it. It works great for him. But for me, it doesn't work. I don't know if it's the coloring, because it's like black. It's black and pink, so it's pretty, but my brain's different. I am like super severely ADHD, like apparently more severe than I realize, because all these coaches that I'm like, oh, I'm ADHD, and they're like, I've dealt with that. They're all like, oh, poor Hillary. I feel so bad for her. I love her so much. The whole book thing, because she's like, here's these deadlines. This is what you need to do. I haven't even met my first deadline yet, and that my last deadline was supposed to be last Sunday. But so I'm learning, and it's crazy the different ways that our brains work. And the more that I dig into it, and the more people that I talk to and deal with, I realize my brain really does work different. I've known, for most of my adult life that it did, but you hear ADHD or autism or whatever it is. There's so many different variants and variations and ways that we, can process things, I guess. And so anyway, moral of the story, the app, I think maybe will do better for me. I'm going to give it a try. I feel like I switch task management apps like every other day, but eventually I'm going to find one that works.
Yeah. Well, and I think the ADHD is really goes along with your personality as well. For instance, and because I'm struggle with the same thing. And my husband came home one time and I'm like, hey, you got a nice haircut. And he's like, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. So I'm not attentive to that, because I don't look at people on the outside. I don't care what you look like. I care what you are inside. So that's my excuse. This is what's been working for me so far. But really, I'm not attentive to how people look because I just don't pay attention. And I felt really bad because he's like, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. And he's like, and then I'm just, he'll do stuff and he'll have to tell me he's doing it because I really don't catch it. And I'm like, I am so sorry. But my mind just runs 90 miles an hour a day. And then you throw something like that in there, and then I'm just not attentive to how people look anyhow, unless you're just absolutely like freaky weird and it just catches my attention. It's really hard, but I got to work on that, yeah, especially since it was like 2 weeks before, I noticed his haircut. That sucked.
Do you guys ever have conversations that one or both of you doesn't remember? Because we're the worst of that. All three of the people in my household, my husband, my teenager, and I, are all pretty severe ADHD. Like, it is, which is why nobody can see this but you, thank goodness. But this is like the least cluttered room in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So we all get emotionally attached to things. We all say things and forget that we say them. We'll say, okay, I'm going to do something, like literally, I'm going to go and we have koi fish. I'm going to go feed the fish. And then like 5 hours later, somebody will be like, did anybody feed the fish? And I'm like, yeah, I totally did. And then I'll go out and I have it where when I do it, I leave the cup somewhere else. So I know that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that I actually fed them. My koi fish are like this big. If they don't eat, they're going to get mad.
Oh, wow.
But it'll be like, I'm going to do it. And I can visualize that I did it. And I never did it. And we're all three really bad about that. So and I think it's important, for everybody, your listeners, everybody, to understand that when people that are, neurodivergent or whatever you want to call it, do or say things or forget things, it's not intentional. It's not because we're lazy or rude or anything like that. It's genuinely, like you said, my brain goes so fast that sometimes I think I did things that I didn't do. And until I started writing the book and something else, this has come up twice in the last like 2 weeks, but I'm not going to try and make up a statistic because like 87.9% of statistics are made up on the spot, but there is a statistic of the amount of memories that are not real. Mm-hmm. Like, there's part of our memories that actually never happened, that our brain formulates, that we truly believe. And I'm like, oh, I feel like mine is way higher than most people. Because I'm like, yeah, I totally fed the fish. And I think I did it. I'm not lying when I said that I did whatever it is. I think I did it. And it's like, oh, I didn't get done.
Yeah. Whoops. No, I wish my husband would forget. He's got quite the memory, and he likes to remind me quite a bit how well his memory works. So, no. And he, I think he sometimes I think he hates it because he really wants to forget some things or, be able to let go of some things, and whatever, he struggles with that. But what happened for me was I would get mad because people would bring stuff up from like 10 years ago, and I'm like, okay, I can't fix 10 years ago. Why are we talking about 10 years ago? And so I thought, you know what, I hate it so much that I'm going to teach myself to forget, so when I get mad at them, I cannot throw it in their face, because that's how much I hate it. I don't want to do it back to them. And I went on this fun little journey of learning to forget, and I did it so freaking well. I don't remember anything. So I have to really write everything down. I'm getting pretty good with names. Sometimes I do pretty good with names, but that's where my forgetfulness fit. I mean, I like it to a point, but it's starting to backfire a little bit, now that I'm really needing to remember stuff. It's quite the battle. But I actually taught myself to forget, so I couldn't throw people, bring something up and throw it in somebody else's face. And yeah, it's worked pretty good. So I don't know how to fix it yet.
Well, I actually went through, like, I hired people to help me with that, and I did neuro-linguistic programming, and I've done EMDR, which is eye movement, some like it's woo-woo stuff.
What do you think of that? No, because I was thinking of doing that. I keep putting it off because for whatever reason.
So I've done both. I did EMDR, and I also did neuro-linguistic programming. EMDR and I apologize for any therapists out there that I'm offending or saying anything wrong, but it basically like puts you through the pain again. And as weird as this sounds, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't experience it myself, is the first or second time I did EMDR, the eye movement didn't work for me. That's like the whole thing is they like normally do that. She had to literally like tap my knees to do the like weird woo woo whatever. And it basically, it seems so silly even saying it out loud. I kind of like sorry for anybody that is like, wow, she's weird, but it does, it brings the pain, like the emotional pain, it physically brings it through your body. And there was one point when I was doing it, I could not move my legs. My legs felt like I had 1,000-pound weight on them. I could not, like I tried to lift them with my hands, could not lift them. It was the weirdest thing. So the EMDR drags you through it. And it was, I would leave some days and I would have severe pain, like in my shoulders or something like that. That would be there until the next week until we moved it further. But then I did neurolinguistic programming. It was half an hour and like the pain was gone. I was a different person. People that knew me, that talked to me later on that same day were like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm great. I was back to 16-year-old Lori again. All of the pain and trauma that I put myself through, it lifted away. And it's super weird. So between the two, I would definitely do NLP. And especially the Mind Ninja has a new group that I just joined, and I'm very excited about that because just doing the neurolinguistic whatever it is helped a ton. But if I don't keep working on it, I mean, I'm never gonna completely heal. But part of the problem with it is, and I mentioned this to Wiley the other day, I'm like, I have a slight problem, so I'm writing this book about my life, right? My life with ADHD and how it's affected me, and I could not get the memories. I couldn't remember anything. Kind of like what you're saying, like it was gone.
Yeah.
And finally, I had a thought that triggered all these other thoughts. And I was sitting down in my office the other day. I posted it on Facebook. I was sitting in my office and I was so into this that by the time I like looked down, I've struggled to get 1,500 words on paper. By the time I looked at the count, there were 3,000 words. And I'm like, holy crap. And I looked and my desk was covered in tears because I'd brought back all these memories that I've spent a fortune and a ton of time trying to make go away. But it was important for me to bring it back because the whole purpose of writing a book, well, I have two purposes. One is I want to help people. I want to help because I went through a lot, not realizing I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until I was, I don't know, almost 30. And I was misdiagnosed. I was mismedicated. And, all of those things went into it. And I want to help people realize that, hey, just because they tell you that you're all these things doesn't mean that's necessarily, what it is. There could be more out there. It could be a simple fix, not simple, but and so hopefully I will help at least one person and it'll be worth bringing all that back up. But the cool thing about it is once I got it out on paper, it kind of went back away again. So I'm like, the subconscious is weird.
my problem with that is I have a lot of trauma and things like that. And I remember the majority of it, but I will be honest, I have never actually ever dealt with these problems. I shove them in my black hole and let them go. And I look at it like this: what's done is done. Can't fix it, can't change it, move on and let it go. And I can do that. And so when I go to talk about the things that have happened to me in my life, it's even my shrink has said it's just a matter of fact. It's it's just, oh, the cat came in and ate dog food. I mean, it's just like that. And so I don't know anymore if programs would work. I long time ago I tried hypnotherapy and things like that, but I just think they're so buried. I mean, I remember vague things, but I just think that they're so buried. I don't know if there's a way to bring them back up. Should I bring them back up? Maybe it's better where they're at. They're dormant. That's good. I don't know. And so I struggle with what to do with that because in general, that is exactly how I deal with all my problems. Okay, so this happened today. Let's deal with it, fix it, move on, let's go. It's done. And that's really how I deal with everything. And so I've been doing it for so long, and just shoving things down. And I know everybody says, no, that's not how you're supposed to deal with it, but that is how I dealt with it. And it's so far worked for me. maybe every once in a blue moon. And when I say a blue moon, I'm talking maybe once every 7, 8, 10 years. I might have a little bit come back up, and I shove it back down and it's done. I mean, I don't have outbursts. I don't have, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. So I don't know how to fix this. If I should just leave it alone. I'm really confused
I
on
think
that.
you should,
You think
because,
so?
and I'll share a weird story with you.
Okay.
And my mom actually brought this to my attention a while ago. And I didn't want to say anything, but because I told her about my mind clearing when I did it. And this isn't an ad for Wiley. He's amazing. But, I do highly recommend reaching out to somebody that does that, because it literally changed my life. I could get a testimonial of like 50 people who will tell you the difference that happened that day in that half-hour period. My husband did it as well. He's a completely different person. He still has his road rage, but that's his only trauma response that he really still has anymore. And I don't think that one's ever going away.
Yeah.
But when we were doing it, basically, whenever they work you through this process, they tell you to think of an emotion. And I think it was fear. I think fear is the emotion that really got me. And I'm like going through this whole thing. I'm like, this is so woo woo. This is in my head the whole time. I'm thinking, this is stupid. This is not working. I promise you it worked. And Dean said he thought the same thing. Dean thought he was lying to Wiley when he was like, yeah, I got it. Let's move on. He genuinely thought he was lying, but he worked through these things. But anyway, one instance was, I think it was fear. And Wiley's like, okay, how old were you? And you're supposed to the first number your subconscious gives you, you're supposed to say it. And I said, it was either 6 or 9. I don't remember. And he said, was it before birth, after birth, or during birth? And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. And my brain, the first thing that popped up was before birth. Well, I have an instance that happened whenever my mom was pregnant with me that I didn't even really realize until she told me later on. Whatever 6 or 9 months pregnant, whichever one of those numbers I picked, was when this happened. I know nobody here can see it, but I have kind of an indentation on my nose. My biological father, who, sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this, putting our business out there, but I am writing a book. So, but he was I'm sure he was a great person deep down. I never met him. But he was a drug addict and was trying to get my mom's car keys, and she took the keys so he couldn't go to his dealer or whatever it was. And she wound up getting hurt, which is she had to go to the hospital, and that's kind of what they say caused that. So it's just weird that my subconscious pulled something up. I was like in the womb, like, are you kidding me? And some of this stuff was like generational stuff, like the guilt. He asked about guilt. The guilt in my family started 20 generations ago. I mean, it was just like, it's compounded, and I was able to let go of that because I'm from the South. We were raised to, you live in the South, I'm sure you see it. If your family's not that way, there are a lot of families there that are like, we feel guilty for everything, take responsibility for everybody's everything. And that's something that I was able to let go that I didn't even realize was something that was possible to let go of. And my grandmother is turning 80 to Wednesday. And I really, for her birthday, I want to get her a mind clearing. And she's like, that would be wasted on me. And I'm like, absolutely not. She's ornery. She's going to be around for another like 20 years. So if we could give that extra 1, 2, 20 years, peace, and not to just be drowned in the guilt of being responsible for everything for everybody. So anyway, that to say, if I were you, I would at least try it. There's several people in Apex that do it. I obviously recommend my person because he's awesome. He's literally changed my life. He's changed the way I do business. He's changed the way that I parent my child, my relationship. Not that we had a bad relationship, but we had our issues. We worked together, for God's sake. Like, that's hard. It completely changed the way that we communicate and interact. And I think without it, I would not have committed to a podcast and a book because I was so in my own, even though I thought it was buried, there was still so much of the stuff there. Most of my past and history are my bad choices. I'm really just saying that disclaimer for my family. I promise I'm not putting your shit out there. It's mine. I told my mama the other day, and I didn't mean for it to come out the way that it did. And she listens to your podcast, so I love you, Mama.
Love you too.
I was really frustrated because I found out that my parents don't listen to my podcast, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I'm not great, but I'm getting better at the banter going back and forth." And your episode of my podcast, I think, was a turning point because you and I meshed so well together that I think that what we started talking about is not really what we ended on, but
Yeah.
it was packed with value. Like my family's all listen to it. I made them because I'm like, I talk about granddad's little cup of flour. You got to listen to this episode.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I was telling her about something about the book, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to put everything in the book. I'm sick of trying to protect everybody. Nobody listens to my damn podcast. They're not going to read the book either.
Yeah.
And she's like, so what are you putting in it?
Tell me now.
I texted her a little while later and I'm like, hey, I just want to clarify. I was just a little bit mad when I said that. I have no intention of like airing anybody's dirty laundry except for my own.
Yeah.
But I do think it's incredibly important to get the things out there that, I mean, because of where I am now, I mean, I'm not that I'm like super successful or anything, but I, you know, own an insurance agency. am, you know, doing all of these things. And this is the first time I actually said this out loud, but I mean, I attempted suicide when I was 19. Because of a horrible love triangle, like it was like, there's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to get those things out there because there's young people, you know, my 15-year-old included, that whenever you're 15, 16, 19, everything seems like it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, we take it not way too seriously. That's not the right word, but I think you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to let people know that you can get past that. Like your story. I've heard your story several times. I've read it and I've, you know, and, knowing that you've been through that, but are still as strong as you are, that's probably what helped make you as strong as you are. Like my mama listens to your podcast. I finally think it may have her convinced that we are a family of hoarders. After she listened to the podcast episode with you, she texted me after and said, I'm going to go clean out one of my storage buildings.
I feel guilty all of a sudden.
You know what? You're close enough to where she lives that I seriously considered hiring you to come help. Because she has, you talked about like 12 storage buildings. She has, I love you, Mama. A box, like a shipping container full, which that's the smallest. She's got a 2-story house, but she's very much like me. I'm looking around this room at this dumb stuff that I'm like, I know who bought this for Taya. So we could never get rid of it because Sheila and Rachel got it for Taya. It's a boot light that's been sitting here in a closet for forever.
You know what you do with that? You know, okay, well, Pinterest is, I don't get on it much anymore, but it was my crack cocaine for a while because, you know, I wanted to sell crafts and stuff too, but it does suck, you know, throwing a lot of stuff away. But the coolest thing I saw with boots was they would take either real flowers or fake flowers and, you know, put them in there and then put them on the porch or whatever. And it looked really cool and it served a purpose. So there's always something you can do, you know, and when it's something that has sentimental value, no, I don't, you know, no, you don't have to get rid of it. I mean, if you're downsizing so much so that you actually can't keep it, then maybe take a picture of it or something and keep it that, because obviously that doesn't take up much space. But if you can repurpose it into something that everybody can enjoy and everybody can see and, you know, stuff like that, then I like doing that, repurposing stuff. Unfortunately, my house is not big enough. I know if I buy a bigger house, I'll put more shit in it, but hey, you know, I enjoy it mostly. It's difficult, you know, it is difficult to let go of, and this is stuff that is not even mine. It's stuff I pick up and I have no attachment to it, but I have to constantly remind myself, if this caught on fire, would I miss anything in here? And pretty much the answer is no. Maybe a few things, not enough to sit here and try and dig them out and get them out. So in the big picture, I can look at it and let go, but in the small picture, I do struggle a little bit with that. So, you know,
ideas because I need these reminders in front of me.
You know what? I'm working with people and just saying, look, just start with one drawer. Okay. Don't try and tackle a room. Try and tackle your junk drawer. You know, I even do that in my house. And I'll just do one drawer and that's it. Get it organized. Get, you know, the 20 different pens that I'm not going to use out of there, throw them out. things like that. And then you do one at a time. And if you're able to do more than that, then maybe do 10 items a day. But I wouldn't say 10 drawers a day. I would just, keep it small, keep it short. And it's easier to let go when you do a little bit at a time. So that's how I work with myself, because this is going to be a constant problem because I still go dumpster diving, so I love doing that. And I love scrapping metal. So if I drive by somewhere at night, especially, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna go get that. So, I'm gonna be one of the multimillionaires that scraps metal.
Do it. I mean, whatever makes you happy and that makes you feel good, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Eventually I'm going to tackle all of the clutter. But when we moved from Georgia to Michigan, we downsized. We lost about half of our space.
Oh wow.
Or usable space. I say usable. We have a full basement, but it's not finished. I don't know if you've been in it's not a Michigan basement that people call, because those are like definitely not finished. But we have, the walls are there and all. It's just not closed into rooms or drywalled. But we went through a huge dumpster, like the biggest dumpster they could bring. We filled with stuff, and we still have so much stuff. And for me, everything has emotional attachment. Like, I will never be able to get rid of this stupid microphone because I recorded my first podcast on it, and that's gonna remember that is how attached I get to everything. So that's what I love about what you do and your podcast and your posts, is because it motivates me. Like, hey, you're not alone, and maybe somebody else can use that stuff that's literally just collecting dust and getting eaten by moths.
Yeah. Now, if mine quits working, it's scrap. I'm not keeping it. It's going to the scrap yard. But so we're running out of time. I have one final question for you. How do you get rid of the trash in your life when it piles up?
One step at a time. Listening to your podcast. As far as the emotional junk, the NLP, the EMDR, all of that stuff really has helped me a ton. And I'm learning talking about it. Like, as far as the emotional junk, talking about it. Physical junk, I'm still working on. So I am not the person to come through to for advice on that. But I will say, I do want to say one thing, because I know I'm not the first one that's thought it. And I was talking to Jamie Hyde this morning, and I told him, I said, he's one of the people that have taught me that if you're thinking something or have a question, you should say it out loud, because somebody else is probably thinking it. But you should really consider, I know you have a lot going on, but starting a coaching program for people that are like borderline hoarders, to walk them through the processes. Because listening to I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff.
That's cool.
After talking to you. Not near enough. I say a lot, maybe like 5 things out of the 10,000, but it's getting easier to release it after, hearing your advice. And I just wrote this down again, and you've told me this like 3 times now, but if it caught on fire, would I miss it?
Yeah.
Those are really good reminders. And so those little things, you could help a ton of people with some sort of like coaching program or anything like that. But
yeah, I'll definitely take that to heart. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on. And we have Jamie coming up next. So that's pretty cool. I thought it was like, oh, looky here. Perfect.
He's actually one of my coaches. So
yes. Yep.
He's awesome. He'll bring tons of value. That's what he does.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it. And I too have a little divot in my nose. So I'm thinking we're twins, and you tell your mom I'm the evil ones. I'll take all the blame.
But it was Michelle that did all those things when I was a bad teenager. It wasn't me. Well, thank you for having me. It's always great catching up.
Oh, it's been awesome. I love it. We'll have to have you on again.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.